Hey everybody, welcome back to Truth Revealed. Truth Revealed is the YouTube channel that I've created in order to teach you everything that I know and have learned through my experience about deception detection. So I want to thank you early subscribers who have bared with me through this period of me finding my sea legs when it comes to making YouTube videos. So I know the format has changed considerably since I first started, but the format that this video is in is how I'm going to bring every video to you in the future. That leads me into my next point, which is that I haven't really done a formal introduction. So it's important at this point to me that you know the source of your information. You know who I am and why I'm bringing you this information and how I know this information. So after the events of September 11th, and at that point I was just finishing up college, I began my career as a counterintelligence special agent working for the Department of Defense through the military. And the first few years of my career were basically all about training. I went through counterintelligence school, went through interrogation school, surveillance detection, source handling, and a plethora of others, polygraph, a bunch of other intel courses, and then got thrown into a war zone, a literal war zone, and had to find myself in that environment. That's when I began my career as a intelligence officer. I worked in that environment for 8 years, and at that point, uh, my life, like many other people's lives, took a turn, and I had to reevaluate the life that I was living and the impact that that was having on my family. And so I transitioned out from that Department of Defense position, and I began working as a federal agent with the Department of Homeland Security. And I worked that job in a much more strategic environment for the rest of my law enforcement slash intel collection career. And at that point, I retired. So what I did is I sat down and I poured myself the knowledge that I had acquired, the experience that I had required, and I poured that all out into a course, a class that I called The Science of Deception and the Art of Detection. And then, as I thought about it and as I began teaching that class, I realized that what other deception detection courses are missing, what they aren't teaching, and I don't know if it's because they don't understand it or if it's because it's too hard to teach it, but there is a level of empathy that a person must employ in order to be truly good at deception detection. You have to learn how to live for a moment in another person's mind. And in order to do that, it's all about understanding the emotions that they're feeling, why they're feeling those emotions, what their motivation is for their life, for their current actions, and begin to believe that. That's where the empathy part comes in. Once you put yourself into that person without judgment and you become that person where you feel like you're motivated by their motivations, and then you understand why they're doing what they're doing, it allows you in the position of being the interrogator or just in being the person who's trying to get information. It allows you insight into what's important to them, what's not important to them, what they want to hear, what they don't want to hear. And it allows you to ask the right questions at the right time, and it allows you to look at their body language and listen to their speech patterns. And as they stumble on certain words or as they hesitate, you feel like okay, if I was trying to make up a story right now, this is the part where I would be tripping, and where I would be trying to find a word that doesn't incriminate me, trying to, where I would be remembering what I did last night, thinking, okay, that's not what I'm going to tell you, and then trying to figure out something that's plausible that you can't show me evidence that I didn't do last night. All right, so that's why my course is nicknamed the empathy method, even though it's technically called the science of deception and the art of detection, because deception is all about stress. It's all about reading stress. You are not going to be able to do parlor tricks with what I teach you. If you're talking to somebody who says, oh, you just took Sergio's course, tell me if I'm lying, and they tell you these three things, which one was a lie? You're not going to be able to tell. This is real life. This isn't a movie. If it's a game to them and they're not under stress, you're not going to be able to tell if they're lying, because deception detection is about reading stress. And everyone who is not either a psychopath or a borderline personality is going to show signs of stress. Lying is not something you can simply choose to do, even if your life depends on it. Simply because your life depends on it, your body is going to give you away because of the level of stress that you'll be under. And the worse that the punishment, or the worse that the outcome could be for your actions or for what you're trying to cover, then the more stress you will be under, and the easier it is to read that. And also, contrary to what a lot of people think, the smarter a person is, and the more that they know about deception detection, the easier it is to tell that they're lying. Because, and this is why I try to tell the truth to my family and friends as much as I possibly can, because as soon as I begin to be deceptive, I freeze up, because as soon as I say something, I'm like, oh, that was an indicator. How do I reel that back? And this whole conversation is going on in my mind, where my wife is looking at me and I'm just a blank face, like, while all of this is going on and smoke is coming out my ears. Now, I have to say, my wife has also spent her career in human intelligence collection, so it's also a very bad idea for me to lie no matter what to my wife. But so now I'm going to turn you over to my assistant, who's going to give you the textbook information of what this section is about, and then I'll be right back and I'll explain it.
Before we dive into specific indicators of deception, let's understand the most fundamental concept in deception detection: how the mind translates a mix of chemical and electrical impulses into language. The only way to truly understand deception is to understand what normal, truthful communication looks and sounds like. Now, Sergio, back to you.
All right, so in your brain, you have chemicals and electricity firing around, and what that's creating are nebulous, formless thoughts. They mean something to you, but technically those thoughts do not have a language of their own. Or maybe they have a language of their own, but when you're thinking, you're not thinking in language. Now, you often hear people who speak multiple languages say, what language do you think in? People don't actually think in a language like English or Italian. They think in a language of chemicals and electricity, in a language that makes sense to them based on sensory perception. What you've seen and stored in your brain, you can bring back those images. When you bring back those images, you're not necessarily bringing back an English description of those images. You're just bringing back the raw images as a memory. And so your senses store memories, and then you have the ability to retrieve them. But language is not something that a person is born with. It's something that a person learns. And then once you learn a language, that language gets superimposed on top of your memories, your thought process, and it gives structure. Let me give you an example of this. So I went to business school. I have an MBA. When I was in business school, I had a professor who described business. In fact, I had multiple professors who described business this way. But what you learn in business is not necessarily information that is brand new to you. What it is it's words, it's a language that they're teaching you so that you can give information that you already know a structure. You can assign words to it, and once you assign words to it, you can play with it. You can talk about it, you can associate them with other words, with other information that you know, and it gives your thoughts structure. So that's what language does to everything. It gives it structure. And what I want to do with you in deception detection is, okay, and some things that I tell you are going to be things you didn't know before, but a lot of this is going to be stuff that you did know, and I am actually trying to tap into memories and information that you already know, and pull that out, assign words to it. I want to assign a structure to information that you already know so that you now can manipulate that information. You can identify an indicator when you see it. Like I'm using the word indicator. An indicator it's either verbiage or it's body language or it's facial expression that indicates you're not supposed to use the word in the definition, but it indicates deception. So what it's telling you as the interrogator or the interviewer is that that person is deviating from what is normal, and it allows you to identify it. You might have known it before in a way that made you suspicious of what they were saying, but what I'm going to teach you is how to identify that specific thing so that you can actually begin to make a list in your mind of the indicators, and then you can go back and revisit that list in your mind. You can say, okay, that person was deceptive about this, or potentially deceptive about this, this, and this. Whether they were deceptive or not, it's definitely an area of sensitivity that I want to look into later. What I'm trying to do is to teach you enough information about the structure of the science of deception that you have the ability to identify it, and then the ability to utilize the information you get in a way that's going to allow you to continue to get more and more information without the person that you're talking to knowing it. That's where the art of detection comes in. So that's the reason why I named my course The Science of Deception, because all the indicators are indicators of stress that you're looking for. And once you see those indicators, when the stress is due to deception, it becomes an indicator of deception. So yes, what you're looking for is just an indicator of stress, but it's why that stress is coming out that I'm going to teach you how to identify. And then I'm also going to teach you interrogation skills. That's right, this is not just about deception. This channel is truth revealed. So it doesn't accomplish your mission simply to identify that somebody is lying or being deceptive. What you need is all of the information. Now, whether that's simply to give yourself closure, if a spouse is cheating, do you need to know when they started? No, you don't, unless you need to give that to your lawyer. But for your own personal closure is why you need that information. Now, if you're talking, okay, so this is probably one of my favorite anecdotal stories of my time. This was a moment in my career when I had just I just finished one of my deception detection classes. And I was young, So I didn't have any experience using it, and I went with two buddies of mine because one of my friends wanted to buy a car, a used car. So I went with them, and it wasn't me. I wasn't the one buying the car. But when the sales guy came out, he started talking to my friend, and I could tell that he was being deceptive. He was giving very textbook indicators of deception there. And so I decided I'm going to jump in. I'm going to interject myself into this conversation. And so I asked him some simple questions. And one of the really good questions there was, is that the lowest price that your manager will sell this car for? Now, I don't remember the whole conversation. This was a long time ago, but I remember asking that question at least 10 times. And the salesman would go back and talk to his manager, and it got a little bit longer and a little bit longer every time they went back. And finally, well, I negotiated the price of the car, which they were asking $18,999. And we had a offer from the salesperson that he had to get approved by his manager for $10,999. So almost half. And we sat there while the salesman went back, and we sat there for over an hour until the police came and told us that we had to leave the property, that we were trespassing. First, I was extremely confused, and then it was just really funny because we had made the salesman so uncomfortable that he literally couldn't lie to us, and got to the point where neither him or his manager were willing to come out and talk to us anymore, and the only way that they knew how to get rid of us was to call the police. So yeah, be careful. This deception detection is a powerful tool, and while that is definitely not the craziest story of my career, it's still one of the funniest to me because I was very inexperienced at that time. All right, so I digressed there, but what I'm trying to get across is that this is a powerful tool, and when you learn things, please go out and try them. Try to use them. And if there's stuff you don't understand, leave comments because I will get back to every single comment. Well, I say that now. I don't have a whole lot of subscribers, and as I get more, I'm still going to do everything I can to get back to every single comment and try and answer every question. And if I get a bunch of questions on one particular topic, then I will make a video actually explaining that specific topic, that question. And so, like I said, go out and use this. If you have something that's really important, if you suspect your spouse is cheating or a friend is committing a crime, something like that, don't just wing it right away, okay? If there's a specific indicator that you want to know about, don't tell me in the comments why you want to know about it. I don't want your life on blast in my comments, but just tell me that you are interested in knowing some specific thing. When you confront somebody and talk to them, if they lean back and put their hands on their head like this, does that mean anything? And then I can address that, or I can make a video about it, and that way you can just get the information without having an exchange that somebody can go back and read. So practice with this stuff, expect funny things to happen, and by the time we get to the end, you will have a very powerful set of tools at your disposal. All right, let's jump into section 1. We're going to call section 1 brain functionality, and I'm going to give you an analogy, because if I keep everything super scientific, when I refer back to it, you may not remember exactly what I'm saying. But if I make an analogy, then it's much easier to remember a story and to feel how everything fits together, and it is more memorable. So while I'm giving you an analogy, please keep in mind that it is in reference to something that is actually really happening, something that has a scientific background, but I'm oversimplifying it. Just keep that in mind. And then if you have questions because something seems too simple and you want to know more about it, please just ask in the comments. And I'm happy to either explain it in the comments or, like I said, make a whole other video about it. So, brain functionality. The first thing that I want to discuss is going back to that idea. I began to introduce that earlier, that the way that your brain thinks. So, I want to say that you think in brain language. I don't know how else to describe it. Your brain stores memories and information in a way that is based on your senses. So it stores information from sight, sound, smell, touch, taste. And it's only your language that you've learned that begins to give that structure. Now, the analogy that I like to use is, imagine there's a little Wizard of Oz in your skull, like that Disney movie. I can't remember what it's called, but you've got anger up there and whatever. You've got a little wizard up there who's spending his day in control of regulating your heartbeat, your breathing, your digestion, literally everything that you're not consciously thinking of, your brain is controlling. And one of the things that your little brain wizard can do and does is assigns words to thoughts. So imagine that you have a wizard up there with a little dictionary, and as you're thinking, he's looking up your thoughts in the dictionary and finding the word that's associated with that thought. When you have a conversation, you sit down, let's say I sit down with my buddy on the couch and we're going to watch football on Sunday, and I say, hey, you know what happened last night? When I say that, consciously what I'm doing is I'm pulling a memory from last night that I want to talk about. And as I pull that memory, I'm pulling other stuff too. So I'm pulling a bunch of memories, because whatever it was that happened that night, let's say I had a conversation with another friend of mine that I know is having an affair. And so as I think about that, there are other memories that are coming in. A conversation that I had with him, if I've met that person's wife, they're going to jump into my head. If they have, let's say they've had a lot of marital problems, I'm going to be remembering stories that I've heard about their arguments. There's a lot of information that's going to be coming into my head that I am consciously sifting through. As I'm talking to my friend, that little wizard up there is looking up my thoughts and assigning the right word to every thought. It wouldn't do people any good if I was remembering a thought from last night and I was saying random words like red dresser, house, grass, midnight. If I was just spewing out random words that were not associated with my thoughts, then it would be impossible to communicate. So we have this ability to subconsciously assign words to our thoughts. That allows us to speak in real time. Now, once your brain wizard pulls the right word, think of it like he compiles a message, a sentence for you, and then sends it to your mouth. Once it gets to your mouth, you have a ability at that point to edit those words. You're reviewing the words, okay? Because they were already chosen for you subconsciously, but you have a chance to review them and edit them. Now, the editing process is normally used to make sure that there's not a chaotic word in there. So, have you ever been telling a story and you're trying to talk about the house next door, but the word that jumps into your head is garage? Maybe you looked at the garage and you're about to say the garage next door, but you stop yourself and say, "Well, that's not the right word." Okay, it's not garage. It's supposed to be something else. What is that other word? House. That's it. The house next door. So you identify an incorrect word and replace it with the right word, and then you shoot the sentence out. This process is very, very important, okay? There are 4 different.
Hello again, and welcome back to, I guess, a second helping of tangential story time with Sergio.
There are 4 different aspects of deception detection. There's body language, there's verbiage, there's verbal linguistics, things like your tone, and then there's facial expressions. So micro expressions is an area of deception detection that was literally created by Paul Ekman, and there's a TV show about it called Lie to Me, and I love that show. It's great. It covers a lot more than just micro expressions, even though that's the basis of the show. The work that Paul Ekman did is groundbreaking, and it is extremely difficult. I have studied Dr. Ekman, and that was part of my training, even though I was not good at it. I went through that training, but I don't use it because I simply cannot process people's micro expressions fast enough to use it. And so the stuff that I'm going to teach you is stuff that you can process more slowly. Micro expressions, if you can read micro expressions, then congratulations, you have a leg up on the rest of the world. Honestly, I've tried and I can't do it fast. I can't process it fast enough. So I focus on body language, on verbiage, and on neurolinguistics. So now I want to jump back to the conversation that we were having with our buddy. If we were to choose every word that we were saying, like I'm doing right now, you see how slow these words are coming out? It's because I want to make sure that I don't mislead you or confuse you, and so I'm choosing my words very carefully. But you probably noticed that little sentence right there sounded very awkward. That little pause in between every single word is not natural at all, and it's not just the way I talk. I mean, I was doing that subconsciously because I was literally trying to choose every word. But it actually is a great example of how if we do that and sit and choose every single word, it becomes laboriously slow, and it's very unnatural. It causes the person that you're talking to lose attention and to literally wonder what's wrong with you. Why is this person that I'm talking to literally choosing every single word? Why are they being that careful? Because when you're just out with your friends and you're talking, the conversation just flows freely. You don't edit the words. In fact, the only time that you're going to edit a word is usually, in that example that I gave you before about the garage, it's usually because you're looking at something that's similar to a word that you're trying to say, and for some reason you pull a word that's associated with what you're looking at instead of what you're thinking about. So it's seldom that you simply can't remember the right word, even though that does happen too. But when that does happen, let's walk through this together. What does that look like? When you're actually looking, when you're truthful and you're looking for a word, it usually sounds something like this. Now I have to come up with an example on the spot here. Let's say it's my car, and you say, I was going to drive to my mom's house, so I grabbed my keys and I went to get in my what's it called? You'll bring the other person into this. Like, what's the word that I'm looking for? because they know the context of what you're saying and the word escapes you, and so you actually ask for assistance there. That's a very natural thing to do, and it's a very strong indicator of truth because you're doing the opposite of deception. You're bringing the person in. You're figuratively saying, "Look in my brain, and can you pull this word out that I can't find?" So that is a very strong indicator of truth. When somebody pauses like that and then tries to shut you out, tries to do the opposite, and tries to not let you see into their mind, that's an indicator of deception. Now, you're thinking, okay, what does that look like? Well, that's what this entire course is about. So we will slowly cover those one by one as we move forward here. Now, and I know this is going to be a killer. That is everything that I wanted to cover today. The takeaway from this, what's important, so let me recap real quick, is that it's important to understand that your brain has a method of storing data and you have a method of retrieving data. And the storage and retrieval of data does not actually include language. Language is something that you learn, and then there's a part of your brain, that your little brain wizard up there, who's got his little dictionary, and he knows your brain language. Let's not call it language. He knows how to read thoughts. And as he's reading the thoughts, he's assigning words based on your dictionary. So he's looking up your thoughts, and okay, he's trying to say red car, and this is the definition of a car. This is what he's thinking, so he puts that on the thing. Car. Red. This is the definition of red. That is what he's thinking. Red. Okay, mouth. Shoot those words out. Those are right. So there's that process, and it's automatic. If you're going to be deceptive, this is the most important point here. If you're going to be deceptive, your brain is first going to choose the right word, and then you have to change it. Now that's, I know, I'm being a little dramatic, right? And you're like, duh. But no, follow me here. The fact that you have to change it takes time, it takes mental resources, and it generates stress. So by being able to assign words to what we're talking about and understanding the process and having this analogy to think about while you go through this process, while you're listening to your deceptive friend in front of you, I want you to be able to say, okay, I understand what's going on here. I can see him or her trying to pick a word, and I can tell that they already know the word for car. And so when they say they're getting into and they pause and now they're trying to search for a word, and that's not a great example there, but I'm going to teach you to look for interruptions that are caused by the necessity to be deceptive and the stress that comes along with that. So that's it. That's what I wanted to cover today. Please let me know in the comments what you think about this new format. And the last thing is I am going to do some videos that will be structured differently, that are going to be live reactions to things like politicians or actors who are giving a speech or who are talking to the press. You know, when an accused murderer is talking to the press, we are going to tear them up, because I've seen a lot of the experts on body language, and while they're often right, they just do not explain it very well. So if you follow my channel here, I am going to refer back to indicators that I've taught you, so that we can watch together while somebody's lying through their teeth and say, oh, look at this, you notice that indicator, you notice that, you notice that. And then we will actually, and this is the great part of what I'm going to teach you, is you're not just going to know that somebody's lying or being deceptive, but you're going to know what the truth is, because of the way that they're covering their story. All right, that's a teaser. I'm not going to go any farther into that. You'll just have to tune in next time. All right. Thank you for watching, and please leave comments. And remember, the truth is something that you are entitled to. So remember, until next time, keep seeking the truth. And this is Truth Revealed signing off.